Natasha, you're with us live tonight. You're in the final year of university. Tell us what your situation is right now.
I'm currently in my final year of my media degree at RMIT, and I've lost a couple of opportunities. My question for the panel is, with so much job insecurity, with 600,000 Australians reported now out of work over the last month, how am I, like recent graduates, future graduates, expected to break into industries with little to no employment available? And we're competing with people who have lost their jobs and looking to get back into work. So how can we, with no experience, get positions that these same people are going for?
Yael.
We've seen this kind of comparison to emerging from the Great Depression. Is there a question around government stepping in a kind of Rooseveltian way and say, okay, we need to create public work, we need to make jobs for young people who are emerging? And from what I can see, there is actually a huge opportunity as we transition from a fossil fuels economy towards a renewables economy. And that does seem to be the way that we're heading. And it would seem that government investment in putting young workers to fuel that new economy, in training and education, particularly with people with media skills. There's all kinds of areas where people can support that transition to a new, safe, green economy.
Danielle Wood, this is a question about people with little to no experience breaking into a market where there's already not enough work for the people that do have experience. How do you answer Natasha's question?
I would say it's incredibly tough, Natasha. Even before the COVID crisis hit, what we know is that it was taking university graduates longer to find that first permanent role. Often they were cobbling together casual work or part-time work to get some experience before they landed a role in their particular sector. So there is no easy answer. We certainly do think there is a role for government to step in terms of stimulus and programs in particular that create jobs. So we're looking at things like infrastructure projects. The Andrews government today had an announcement around building social housing, building schools, road maintenance. All of those are great stimulus projects. I think there's scope to do more in the sort of social services space to address needs that have emerged during the COVID crisis. Things like mental health services or tutoring to catch up disadvantaged students. And what I would say to young people that may not be as far down the path as Natasha, that are thinking about how they might skill up, there are a number of areas where skills are incredibly in demand. So things like health services, mental health, aged care, a lot of trades. A lot of roles actually are getting filled by skilled migrants. They're not going to be coming over the next year or two. We expect, we're going to see a big fall in migration. So we actually need to build a pipeline of young people moving into those sectors. So certainly look around. There are a lot of areas where there are jobs for people with those skill sets.
Tim Fung?
I think it's important for young people to be, focusing on really building out their greatest asset, which is their skill base. And I think where the government can actually step in is in two ways. One is around investing into things like research and development grants to help technology companies. I think that's a huge area. I think also investing into education for people, for young people moving into the workforce. And I think, overarchingly, I think young people just really need to invest into this number one asset that they have, which is their skills.
Natasha, does any of this give you hope or optimism?
I think it's interesting that they talk a lot about the government providing assistance when right now, all my friends, all my uni mates, all we think about is, there used to be this very stepping stone way of getting to things, like you build experience, you do these internships, it builds networks and opportunities, but that seems very paused or it's almost obsolete now. So I feel like government answers are always great, but right now, all we can think about is what are we going to do next? What's literally next?
Ines Willox,
if that makes sense.
Can you give a simple answer to this young person about how they might be able to break into the jobs market, the secure jobs market?
There's no simple answer, Hamish. I wish I could give one, but out of this will come different jobs, a different sort of economy, a new normal. We're sort of in the first phase of the worst of it at the moment, and as we will emerge from it, and the economy will change shape and opportunities will emerge, and it's about having skills that are transferable, portable. I think Natasha herself talked about experiences, not just in the job market, but beyond that.
But
and they're the sort of things that employers are looking for.
It sounds like a lot of these responses,
It's not easy,
though.
Hamish. I wish I could say it was easy.
It does sound, though, if I'm being honest, that a lot of you are saying, actually, she might need to think about a different career to the one that she's just done a university degree. And is that what it sounds like to you, Natasha?
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. Like, they're talking a lot about startups and stuff. Like, that's not what I'm studying. That's not what half of the population is studying.
To be fair, I think that there are, what I was trying to express, and apologies if I didn't do it correctly, but I think there are enormous amounts of opportunities for skilled communicators such as yourself, people who've trained in that area, in terms of transitioning this economy, because going back to business as usual is not going to work. It's not going to work for our environment, and it's not going to work for our labour force either.
Yael,
Can I just jump in? Because I feel like we've missed the point, which is that we're pushing all of the onus onto young people, but we're not actually listening to what they're saying. This was a problem before coronavirus. There were so many young people who were going through university and coming out the other side and going into jobs that had nothing to do with what they'd studied. They weren't there. There was such a lack of investment in education, particularly in the TAFE and the vet sector. There was a marketisation of the university sector where students are just rushed through and not given proper adequate support and proper adequate skills and properly guided into where they need to go in their career. And you're right, we don't have a really linear transition from school to post-school education to a career. And part of that problem, I think, and part of the reason we haven't been able to address that problem is because the people in power, the people who are making decisions, aren't listening to young people. We need people like Natasha to be on panels like this, to be putting forward visions for what we need to do, because that's when we're going to have solutions, when we have young people at the forefront.
Natasha?
Can I just jump in on that issue? Because I think, there is a real disconnect with some of the areas where we have a lot of graduates coming out of university or skills training and where the employer demand is. So I think there is actually a much greater role for government and others to be telling young people, this is where the jobs are. If you go and graduate from a health-related degree, you have really great employment outcomes. If you graduate from media and performing arts, unfortunately, there just aren't as many jobs available, and we see that employment outcomes are not as strong in those areas. And I think that's information that young people should have in front of them.
I think I need to get...
It's broader than that, Hamish. It's broader than that. I've been talking about this for 10 years, so it's not new. There's a disconnect between our education system and the workforce that we need to provide. And we've had this problem for a while, that industry, businesses, right across, from healthcare, right through manufacturing, right through, haven't been taken into account, really, when the education system has been developed and our young people are going through it. And employers have been telling us now for a very long time that there is that disconnect between what they need and want and see that they will need in the future and what the education system provides. And that's why employers more and more are looking at experiences in a much broader sense than just simply the piece of paper. And it's an issue that out of this, I'm agreeing with everything that's been said, we have to address this. It's fundamental. It's one of the great national challenges to rework our education system to make it fit for purpose for young people and for employers, and so that we can get the pull through that we need, so that our employers are happy with what's being produced and our young people see the opportunities well ahead of them. And it's a huge part of what we have to address out of this. That's what I was talking about, this being policy-led. This is exactly one of them.
I do just want to go back to Natasha very briefly, because watching you through some of that, I mean, you looked physically pretty distressed at being told, well, maybe you should have done a degree in health.
Well, yeah, it's pretty distressing. Like, you're told in school to, follow what you want to do. This is what I want to do. I don't want to be a nurse. I don't want to be an engineer. And that is, obviously I know going into my degree what career outcomes look like, but this pandemic has completely flipped that. You see, there's obviously always going to be need for healthcare workers, for all these emergency services people, but that doesn't change the fact that I've just spent 3 years at university trying my best to do something that I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, that doesn't change. So I don't feel like I should be told to do a different degree because of that, because now this has happened. There's no job opportunities for me. That's not fair.
Natasha, we'll keep in touch with you and follow your story. We really appreciate your time tonight.